Commander Wei stared at the emergency broadcasts flooding the command center's surviving screens. Kyoto, London, Cairo, all reporting massive casualties as the crystalline Vraxian ships positioned themselves over major population centers. The aliens hadn't even bothered with demands or ultimatums. Their intent was clear in their actions. Humans were not seen as equals worthy of communication. "Commander, we've lost contact with the lunar defense grid," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. "The Galileo outpost is attempting to coordinate what's left of our orbital fleet, but they're being systematically targeted." Wade nodded grimly. "They're isolating us from our off-world colonies. Standard military doctrine. Divide before conquering." He turned to Dr. Reyes, who was frantically analyzing the sensor data from the initial attack. "What can you tell me about these things?" Elena Reyes pushed a strand of gray-streaked hair from her face, eyes never leaving the holographic display. "Their ships appear to be partially organic, almost like exoskeletons rather than constructed vessels. Energy signatures suggest they're using some form of quantum tunneling for their weapon systems. Nothing in our database matches their configuration." An explosion rocked the Geneva facility, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. Warning klaxons blared as emergency lighting bathed the command center in pulsing red. "They've breached the outer perimeter," Rodriguez announced. "Evacuation protocol is in effect." Wei made the hardest decision of his 30-year military career. Begin emergency protocol exodus. Transmit all data to our secure servers in the Rockies, then wipe everything here. We need to preserve what we know about these invaders. As personnel rushed to comply, Wei approached the window overlooking what had once been the picturesque Lake Geneva. The water now boiled and steamed where Vraxian energy weapons had struck, creating an unnatural fog that shrouded the advancing alien forms. Through breaks in the mist, he caught glimpses of their movements. Precise, coordinated, utterly inhuman. "Doctor, we need to move now," Wei urged, turning from the window to find Reyes still at her station. "One moment," she insisted, fingers flying across the interface. "I'm detecting something unusual in their communication patterns. It's almost like..." The building shook violently, cutting her off. "Like they're all connected somehow. A collective consciousness." We grabbed her arm. "Save it. We'll need your insights if humanity is going to survive this." They joined the stream of personnel evacuating through the underground tunnels. Emergency lighting flickered ominously as they moved, the sounds of battle growing louder behind them. The facility had been designed to withstand conventional attacks, even nuclear strikes, but the Vraxian weapons cut through their defenses like they were made of paper. At the transport bay, chaos reigned as civilians and military personnel crowded onto the remaining evacuation vehicles. Wei ensured Dr. Reyes boarded the lead transport before turning back to coordinate the remaining evacuees. That's when he saw her, a young girl, no more than 8, separated from her parents in the panic. She stood frozen in terror as a section of ceiling collapsed nearby. Wei didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the child, scooping her up just as the wall beside them exploded inward. Through the breach, a Vraxian scout entered, 8 feet of armored chitin and sensory appendages. Its compound eyes swiveled independently, taking in the scene with inhuman calculation. Multiple limbs moved with precision, some wielding technology while others seemed designed purely for capturing prey. The commander pushed the girl behind him, drawing his sidearm despite knowing it would likely prove useless. The Vraxian's attention fixed on the child, its head tilting in what might have been curiosity. One appendage raised a scanning device. "Run to the transport," Wei whispered to the girl. "Now." As she fled, Wei fired directly into the alien's sensory cluster. The shots sparked against some kind of energy field, but the creature recoiled nonetheless. It emitted a high-pitched harmonic that made Wei's teeth vibrate painfully. 2 more Vraxians appeared at the breach, these larger and more heavily armored. Wei backed away, continuing to fire, providing cover as the last transport prepared for departure. The girl made it aboard, but Wei knew he wouldn't. The aliens moved with impossible speed, cutting off his retreat. In his final act before they overwhelmed him, Y activated the explosive charges set throughout the facility. The last transport cleared the tunnel as Geneva Command collapsed, burying Y and the alien scouts under tons of rubble, or so everyone believed. 3 days later, when resistance fighters scouting the ruins reported Vraxian excavation activities at the site, Dr. Rice understood with cold certainty. Commander Wei was too valuable to be left for dead. The aliens wanted him alive, and that could only mean something worse than death. 3 months into the occupation, Haven had transformed from a hastily assembled refuge into humanity's best hope. Nestled within a repurposed military bunker complex beneath the Colorado Rockies, the hidden base housed over 2,000 survivors, scientists, soldiers, and civilians united by their refusal to submit. Dr. Elena Reyes hunched over her makeshift laboratory bench, surrounded by salvaged equipment and the disassembled components of a Vraxian drone. Dark circles underscored her eyes, testament to countless sleepless nights. The drone's chitinous exoskeleton had been carefully separated from its neural core, a pulsing, crystalline structure that occasionally emitted faint bluish light. "You should rest," said Colonel Larson, Haven's security chief. "You've been at this for 20 hours straight." Rice didn't look up from her microscope. "The neural pathways are regenerating. Every minute counts." She adjusted a dial, increasing magnification. "There's something extraordinary happening at the quantum level. These aren't just circuits. They're more like synapses that operate across quantum states." Larson frowned. "In English, Doctor, it means they're connected, all of them, even when physically separated. Like a hive of bees, but the connection transcends physical space." She finally looked up, excitement breaking through her exhaustion. "It also means they might be vulnerable to disruption." A sudden pulse from the neural core sent equipment readings spiking. The severed limbs of the drone twitched violently. Rice jumped back as one appendage lashed out, knocking over containers before Larson could draw his sidearm and put 3 rounds into the core. The blue light faded, and the limbs went still. "I thought you said it was deactivated," Larson growled, holstering his weapon. "It was," Rice whispered, staring at the now dark core. "That's what makes this significant. Something reactivated it remotely." The laboratory's communication panel chimed. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice came through, tense with urgency. "Dr. Rice, Colonel Larson, we've received a transmission from Asia. You need to see this immediately." In Haven's command center, screens displayed grainy footage of a teenage boy with determined eyes and a shock of black hair. Behind him, the Tokyo skyline stood partially in ruins, Vraxian ships hovering like predatory insects. "This is Hikaru Tanaka, broadcasting on frequency 739. If the Resistance receives this, I have something you need." The camera panned to show scattered Vraxian technology, meticulously disassembled. "I've escaped processing Facility 3 with 11 others. We've discovered how their neural whips interface with human nervous systems. I've developed countermeasures, but we need extraction. They're hunting us." Rodriguez turned to Larson. The transmission included schematics, primitive but ingenious jammers that can temporarily disable Vraxian neural technology. Rice studied the designs displayed on an adjacent screen. This boy reversed engineered Vraxian tech with scavenged parts. "That's impossible," Larson supplied. "I was going to say exactly what we need." Rice turned to the strategic map showing resistance cells worldwide. "We have an operative in Osaka. How quickly can they reach Tokyo?" 3 days, minimum, Rodriguez replied. "The coastal regions are heavily patrolled." Larson's expression darkened. "The boy may not have 3 days." As if confirming his concern, Hikaru's transmission continued. "They've implemented new drone patterns since yesterday, using modified heat sensors to track humans. We're moving underground tonight, old subway tunnels." His voice dropped lower. "They took my parents to the conversion chambers. They're turning people into something else." not just slaves. Something is changing in the Vraxians. They're adapting to us. The transmission abruptly cut to static. Rodriguez worked frantically to re-establish connection, but the signal was lost. "Prepare an extraction team," Larson ordered. "And find me someone who knows Tokyo's underground." Across the command center, a wall displayed the growing map of confirmed Vraxian extraction facilities, massive structures being built at strategic points around the globe. Latest intelligence suggested these facilities would reach operational capacity within months, not years as originally estimated. Dr. Rice studied the map grimly. "If we're right about their intentions to mine the planet's core, then we're running out of time," Larson finished. "But now we might have two advantages we didn't have yesterday." He gestured toward the blank screen that had shown Hikaru, a technological prodigy who can reverse engineer their weapons, and he nodded toward Reyes' laboratory, a potential vulnerability in their hive mind. For the first time since the invasion, something like hope flickered in Haven's command center. The resistance had begun to form not just a fighting force, but perhaps a path to victory. Amara Okonkwo moved through the corridors of the Vraxian command ship with practiced precision. 6 months of studying their movements had taught her how to mimic the subservient posture of human collaborators. Eyes downcast, shoulders hunched, movements efficient, but never hurried. The surgical scars she had deliberately carved into her face in the pattern of Vraxian markings completed her disguise, designating her as processed and therefore beneath notice. She passed a patrol of Guardian-class Vraxians, their heavy exoskeletons clicking against the ship's organic metallic floor. They barely glanced at her, just another human drone performing menial tasks. Perfect. The data core was 3 levels down, according to the ship schematics memorized during her briefing at Haven. Intelligence suggested the Vraxians stored comprehensive records of their conquests, information that might reveal weaknesses in their seemingly impenetrable armor. The access hatch opened automatically as she approached, responding to the stolen identification chip embedded in her palm. The pain of inserting it without anesthetic had been excruciating, but necessary. Amara's MI6 training had prepared her for many things. The ethical shortcuts required for survival against an alien invasion hadn't been covered in any manual. Inside the data core, crystalline structures pulsed with internal light, resembling nothing so much as a massive technological beehive. Amara removed a quantum interface device, Hikaru's latest creation, from beneath her uniform and connected it to the nearest access node. The holographic display activated, flooding the room with 3-dimensional images of worlds Amara had never seen. 17 planets, 17 civilizations, all conquered systematically by the Vraxians. She watched in horror as lush forests were reduced to barren rock, oceans drained of resources, indigenous species processed for biological components, or simply eliminated. Cross-reference, resistance strategies, she subvocalized into the interface. The display shifted, highlighting comparative data. Most species had surrendered within weeks. A few had maintained organized resistance for months. None had lasted beyond a year. Except Earth, 6 months in, and humanity was not only surviving, but beginning to coordinate counterattacks. A notification pulsed on the display, data download at 60%. Amara navigated deeper, searching for tactical weaknesses. The interface translated Vraxian script, specimen preservation archives. The display changed to show rows of transparent containers, each holding preserved individuals from conquered species. The Vraxians maintained these biological museums on each command ship, trophies of their conquests. Something about these preserved beings disturbed her deeply, each positioned in postures of fear or submission, a record of the moment of defeat. Amara felt her heart rate accelerate, her breathing becoming shallow. The archived images of extinct civilizations triggered something primal, a visceral rage at the casual extermination of entire species. Too late, she noticed the environmental sensors pulsing near the ceiling. The room's atmosphere shifted subtly as the ship detected her emotional response, a deviation from the flat effect of processed humans. An alarm trilled softly. Amara yanked the interface device free, the download incomplete at 83%. She had minutes, perhaps seconds, before security protocols activated. As she moved toward the exit, a section of wall flowed like liquid, resolving into a security portal. Behind it, she glimpsed something unexpected. A Vraxian unlike any she had seen before, smaller, with an iridescent exoskeleton and more pronounced cranial features. It studied her with unmistakable curiosity rather than hostility, head tilting in a disturbingly human gesture. Their eyes met briefly before Amara forced herself to look away. The creature made no move to sound an alarm, instead watching as she edged toward the secondary exit. The ship's internal communication system crackled to life, announcing security protocols in the harmonic language of the Vraxians. Amara slipped through the exit and broke into a run, the precious data secure against her chest. Behind her, the strange Vraxian made no move to pursue. She wouldn't understand the significance of that encounter until much later, when Dr. Rice explained that she had inadvertently discovered the first evidence of divergence within the hive mind. Not all Vraxians remained fully connected to the collective consciousness. Some were beginning to develop individual characteristics after prolonged exposure to human unpredictability. The seeds of the enemy's transformation had already been planted. 1 year into the occupation, former Geneva Command lay in ruins, transformed into a sprawling Vraxian research facility. Behind its crystalline barriers, the aliens conducted experiments on captured humans, seeking to understand the unusual resilience that made Earth's conquest so challenging. Hikaru Tanaka crouched in the drainage tunnel beneath the facility, his modified scanner detecting the neural signatures of imprisoned scientists. After his rescue from Tokyo 3 months earlier, the teenage prodigy had become Haven's most valuable asset. His quantum scramblers, now standard equipment for all resistance fighters, had turned the tide in dozens of skirmishes. Primary target confirmed, Hikaru whispered into his comm unit. Level 3, East Quadrant. Dr. Al-Farouk is alive. Colonel Larson's voice crackled through the earpiece. Copy that. Team Alpha in position. Scrambler status. Hikaru checked the device strapped to his forearm, a sleek amalgamation of human and Vraxian technology. Optimal charge. We'll have 78 seconds of disruption once activated. Understood. Commence on my mark. Hikaru took a deep breath. His first field mission had come at Dr. Rice's insistence. No one understands the scramblers like their creator, she had argued. If something goes wrong, we need him there. He wasn't a soldier, but every human had become a fighter in their own way. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Hikaru activated the quantum scrambler. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Above them, the facility's lights flickered as the scrambler disrupted the quantum frequency linking the Vraxian hive mind. Through the grated ceiling, he could see Guardian-class aliens stumbling in confusion, their coordinated movements degrading into erratic twitches. Colonel Larson led the strike team through the breach point, a service entrance identified from schematics provided by Amara. They moved with practiced efficiency, neutralizing disoriented Vraxians with EMP weapons designed to overload their neural systems. Hikaru followed the extraction team, his focus on maintaining the scrambler's effect. Each second felt like an hour as they penetrated deeper into the facility. The scramblers weren't perfect. The disruption field weakened with distance and time as the hive mind adapted. 60 seconds remaining, he warned, watching the charge indicator pulse urgently. They reached the containment level where human prisoners were held in translucent cells. Many appeared catatonic, neural interfaces attached to their skulls. Dr. Al-Farouk was conscious but weakened, his eyes widening at the sight of human rescuers. Get them all, Larson ordered as his team began the extraction process. 45 seconds, Hikaru announced, anxiety rising as he noticed the first signs of recovery among the facility's security forces. They're adapting faster than before. As the last prisoner was freed, Larson gestured toward the exit. Move out. Hikaru followed, but paused when a monitor caught his attention. On the screen, Surveillance footage showed a heavily guarded chamber several levels below. A single human was suspended in a containment field, surrounded by advanced Vraxian technology. Even through the grainy footage, Hikaru recognized the face from Haven's briefings. "Commander Wei is alive," he gasped. "They have him in a deep containment lab." Larson froze, conflict evident in his expression. Wei had been his mentor, his friend. "We can't reach him. Not with our current resources. The scrambler effect is already fading." 20 seconds, Hikaru confirmed grimly. "But now we know. We can come back for him." As they retreated through the facility's lower levels, the Vraxians began recovering from the disruption. The team barely reached the extraction point before the scrambler's effect dissipated completely. Above them, Vraxian dropships converged on the facility. Larson remained behind at the tunnel entrance, planting demolition charges. "Get them to the transport," he ordered Hikaru. "I'll be right behind you." But as the charges detonated, collapsing the tunnel entrance, a Vraxian energy beam caught Larson squarely in the chest. He fell forward into the tunnel, gravely wounded. Hikaru dragged the colonel's body toward the waiting transport as facility alarms blared behind them. The mission was a success. They had rescued the scientists, but at tremendous cost. And somewhere in the depths of the facility, Commander Wei remained a prisoner, his mind being systematically integrated into the Vraxian hive consciousness. None of them could have anticipated what that connection would ultimately mean for both species. 1 year into the occupation, former Geneva Command lay in ruins, transformed into a sprawling Vraxian research facility. Behind its crystalline barriers, the aliens conducted experiments on captured humans, seeking to understand the unusual resilience that made Earth's conquest so challenging. Hikaru Tanaka crouched in the drainage tunnel beneath the facility, his modified scanner detecting the neural signatures of imprisoned scientists. After his rescue from Tokyo 3 months earlier, the teenage prodigy had become Haven's most valuable asset. His quantum scramblers, now standard equipment for all resistance fighters, had turned the tide in dozens of skirmishes. "Primary target confirmed," Hikaru whispered into his comm unit. "Level 3, East Quadrant. Dr. Al-Farouk is alive." Colonel Larson's voice crackled through the earpiece. "Copy that. Team Alpha in position. Scrambler status." Hikaru checked the device strapped to his forearm. A sleek amalgamation of human and Vraxian technology. "Optimal charge. We'll have 78 seconds of disruption once activated." "Understood. Commence on my mark." Hikaru took a deep breath. His first field mission had come at Dr. Reyes' insistence. "No one understands the scramblers like their creator," she had argued. "If something goes wrong, we need him there." He wasn't a soldier, but every human had become a fighter in their own way. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Hikaru activated the quantum scrambler. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Above them, the facility's lights flickered as the scrambler disrupted the quantum frequency linking the Vraxian hive mind. Through the grated ceiling, he could see Guardian-class aliens stumbling in confusion, their coordinated movements degrading into erratic twitches. Colonel Larson led the strike team through the breach point, a service entrance identified from schematics provided by Amara. They moved with practiced efficiency, neutralizing disoriented Vraxians with EMP weapons designed to overload their neural systems. Hikaru followed the extraction team, his focus on maintaining the scrambler's effect. Each second felt like an hour as they penetrated deeper into the facility. The scramblers weren't perfect. The disruption field weakened with distance and time as the hive mind adapted. 60 seconds remaining, he warned, watching the charge indicator pulse urgently. They'd reached the containment level where human prisoners were held in translucent cells. Many appeared catatonic, neural interfaces attached to their skulls. Dr. Al-Farouk was conscious but weakened, his eyes widening at the sight of human rescuers. "Get them all," Larson ordered as his team began the extraction process. 45 seconds, Hikaru announced, anxiety rising as he noticed the first signs of recovery among the facility's security forces. They're adapting faster than before. As the last prisoner was freed, Larson gestured toward the exit. Move out. Hikaru followed, but paused when a monitor caught his attention. On the screen, surveillance footage showed a heavily guarded chamber several levels below. A single human was suspended in a containment field, surrounded by advanced Vraxian technology. Even through the grainy footage, Hikaru recognized the face from Haven's briefings. Commander Wei is alive, he gasped. They have him in a deep containment lab. Larson froze, conflict evident in his expression. Wei had been his mentor, his friend. We can't reach him, not with our current resources. The scrambler effect is already fading. 20 seconds, Hikaru confirmed grimly. But now we know. We can come back for him. As they retreated through the facility's lower levels, the Vraxians began recovering from the disruption. The team barely reached the extraction point before the scrambler's effect dissipated completely. Above them, Vraxian dropships converged on the facility. Larson remained behind at the tunnel entrance, planting demolition charges. Get them to the transport, he ordered Hikaru. I'll be right behind you. But as the charges detonated, collapsing the tunnel entrance, a Vraxian energy beam caught Larson squarely in the chest. He fell forward into the tunnel, gravely wounded. Hikaru dragged the colonel's body toward the waiting transport as facility alarms blared behind them. The mission was a success. They had rescued the scientists, but at tremendous cost. And somewhere in the depths of the facility, Commander Wei remained a prisoner, his mind being systematically integrated into the Vraxian hive consciousness. None of them could have anticipated what that connection would ultimately mean for both species. The stolen Vraxian shuttle hummed with unfamiliar energy as it approached the massive flagship hidden in lunar orbit. Amara piloted with precise movements, her hand steady despite the stakes. Beside her, Hikaru monitored the cloaking technology he had adapted from salvaged alien components. Quantum signature is holding, he reported, eyes fixed on the display. Their sensors register us as a routine supply transport. Authentication codes are cycling correctly. In the rear compartment, Commander Wei sat motionless, his eyes open but unseeing. Neural interface cables connected his implants to a modified version of Hikaru's quantum virus. Dr. Rise monitored his vital signs. Concern etched on her face. His heart rate is elevated, she noted. Brain activity indicates he's communicating with the individuated Vraxians within the hive. Over the past weeks, Wei had established contact with a growing network of Vraxians affected by what their queen called chaos sickness. Individuals developing autonomous thought patterns separate from the collective. These allies provided the authentication codes and security protocols, making their infiltration possible. How many have joined his network? Amara asked, adjusting their approach vector to mimic typical Vraxian flight patterns. Nearly 300, Rise replied. Mostly younger drones assigned to study human behavior. Prolonged exposure to our thought patterns is catalyzing their individuation. Hikaru glanced up from his console. The infection spreads exponentially. Each individuated Vraxian influences others through subtle variations in their quantum communications. Wei's body suddenly tensed, his back arching slightly. His eyes focused, finding Reyes. Queen Vexera knows something is happening, he said, voice raspy from disuse. Not the details, but she senses disruption in the collective. She's ordered all ships to heightened alert. As if confirming his warning, a communication burst from the flagship swept over their shuttle. Hikaru's hands flew across his interface, adjusting their countermeasures. Demand for authentication update, he translated, responding with the protocols from our allies. After a tense moment, he exhaled. They've accepted it. We're clear to approach docking bay 17. Amara guided the shuttle toward the designated bay on the massive flagship's underside. The vessel dwarfed anything humans had ever constructed. Nearly 20 kilometers of biomechanical architecture housing millions of Vraxians and the nerve center of their Earth operation. Remember the plan, Wei said, disconnecting from the interface. Once inside, We have approximately 12 minutes before the hive mind recognizes the inconsistencies in our presence. The quantum scramblers will buy us another 10, but they'll adapt quickly. Ray's finished final checks on the containment unit housing the quantum virus. The device represented humanity's most sophisticated technological achievement, a fusion of Vraxian quantum engineering and human programming creativity. It contained not just destructive code, but patterns of human consciousness, emotional imprints, creative thought, individuality. Everything the hive mind found so disruptive. If we succeed, Hikaru said quietly, this ends today. Wei's expression remained grave. One way or another. The shuttle glided into the docking bay, settling among identical vessels. Through the viewports, they watched Vraxian drones moving with perfect coordination, loading and unloading supplies with mechanical efficiency. Atmosphere is breathable, Amara confirmed, checking her weapons. Gravity at 1.2 Earth standard. As they prepared to disembark, Y placed a hand on Hikaru's shoulder. If I don't make it through this, tell Dr. Rice the Queen has a failsafe. A planet-killer weapon already positioned. If Vexera dies or loses control, Earth dies with her. The young engineer's eyes widened. You didn't mention this before. I only discovered it recently, Y replied. It means we can't simply destroy the Queen. We need to transform her. And the entire hive with her. He tapped the containment unit. Your virus needs to work perfectly or not at all. The shuttle door slid open. Before them stretched the cavernous interior of humanity's greatest enemy, a living fortress controlled by a consciousness that viewed them as vermin to be exterminated. Operation Chaos, Amara whispered, begins now. The path to the quantum core chamber was littered with the bodies of Vraxian guardians. Amara reloaded her pulse rifle, its power cells dangerously low after successive encounters with increasingly ferocious defenders. Each level they descended brought stronger resistance. Queen Vexera was aware of their presence now, directing her most lethal forces to intercept them. The scrambler's effectiveness is diminishing, Hikaru warned, checking the device trapped to his forearm. They're adapting to the frequency faster than anticipated. Wei nodded grimly. Blood trickled from his nose, a side effect of maintaining connection with the individuated Vraxians while actively fighting the Queen's mental probes. We're close. 2 more levels. Dr. Reyes monitored the containment unit housing the quantum virus. The core temperature is rising. The virus is reacting to proximity to the hive mind nexus. They pressed forward, encountering a new horror at the next junction. Biomechanical monstrosities unlike standard Vraxian drones. These creatures moved with unpredictable patterns, their exoskeletons augmented with weaponry grown directly from their bodies. Genetic adaptations, Wei explained, taking cover as one fired crystalline projectiles that shattered against the corridor walls. The Queen is experimenting with chaos, using what she's learned from humans against us. Amara rolled from cover, firing a precise burst that caught the nearest monstrosity in its sensory cluster. It collapsed, leaking bioluminescent fluid. If she's borrowing our unpredictability, we need to be even less predictable. Working in perfect coordination, the team fought their way through the Guardians. Rise deployed a medical nanite swarm, originally designed for battlefield surgery, reprogrammed to target Vraxian neural systems. The microscopic machines temporarily confused the creature's coordination, creating openings for Amara and Wei to exploit. Finally, they reached the massive doors of the quantum core chamber. Beyond lay the physical manifestation of Queen Vexera's connection to the hive mind, and their target for the virus. Hikaru worked quickly to bypass the security measures while Y placed his hands against the door, his consciousness reaching through to the individuated Vraxians inside. There are 7 Guardian-class defenders within, he reported, and the Queen's consciousness is fully present in the neural matrix. The doors parted, revealing a cavernous chamber dominated by a pulsing crystalline structure that reached from floor to ceiling. Within the translucent crystal, patterns of light flowed like blood through veins, the visible manifestation of the hive mind's consciousness. At the center, suspended in a containment field, floated a Vraxian, unlike any they had seen before. Queen Vexera's physical form was both beautiful and terrifying. Her exoskeleton shimmering with iridescent patterns, her multiple limbs delicately proportioned, her head crowned with sensory appendages that writhed like living wire. As they entered, her consciousness slammed into Wei's mind with overwhelming force. "Commander Jackson Wei," her voice resonated within his skull. "I have been waiting." Wei staggered but remained standing. "You know why we're here. To destroy me." Her mental voice carried an alien emotion that approximated amusement. "But you have already failed." The chamber's far wall dissolved, revealing a viewing port that showed Earth hanging in the void. Beside it, a massive weapons system hummed with gathering energy. "My planet killer," Vexera explained, "already targeting your world's core. If my connection to the hive is severed, it fires automatically. You cannot save both me and Earth." Wei's expression remained unchanged as he nodded to Hikaru. The young engineer moved toward the neural matrix, the virus containment unit in hand. "You misunderstand our purpose," Wei told the Queen, stepping forward despite the pain of her mental assault. "We're not here to destroy you." Vexera's confusion rippled through the hive mind, creating momentary disruption. "Explain." "We're here to change you," Wei replied, his consciousness fully engaging hers. "As you have changed us." As Hikaru began the virus upload sequence, Wei opened his mind completely, sharing not tactical information or military secrets, but the full spectrum of human experience. Love, grief, hope, sacrifice, joy, imagination, emotions, and concepts alien to the collective consciousness flooded into Vexera's mind. The Queen's physical form convulsed, her sensory crown flaring with chaotic light patterns. "What is happening?" Her mental voice fragmented into multiple tones, the sound of a singular consciousness beginning to individuate. "We're showing you what it means to be human," Wei answered as the virus integration reached 50%. "What it means to be truly alive." 5 years after the final battle, Dr. Elena Reyes stood at the observation deck of the newly constructed Unity station in Earth orbit. Below, the planet showed remarkable recovery, green returning to regions that had been scorched by Vraxian extraction attempts, cities rebuilding with a blend of human and alien technology. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Reyes turned to find Hikaru Tanaka beside her. No longer the desperate teenager who had escaped a processing facility, he had grown into a confident young man. At 23, he led Earth's quantum engineering division, overseeing the integration of Vraxian technology with human innovation. "I still find it hard to believe sometimes," she admitted, watching a Y Collective ship dock at the adjacent berth. "That we survived. That we won in a way none of us imagined possible." Hikaru nodded, not through destruction, but understanding. The ship's airlock cycled open, revealing a delegation of transformed Vraxians. Though they retained their insectoid appearance, subtle changes marked their evolution: more varied coloration, individualized markings, and most strikingly, less rigid movements. Each moved with distinct mannerisms, some adopting human gestures learned through cultural exchange programs. Their leader stepped forward, a Vraxian with iridescent blue markings who called herself Vexera Wei, honoring both her original identity and the human consciousness that had transformed her. Though not physically the same queen they had confronted 5 years earlier, she carried the memories and transformed consciousness of the original Vexera, transferred through the hive mind network before the flagship's destruction. "Dr. Reyes," she greeted, her voice a harmonic blend produced by specialized vocal appendages developed to communicate with humans. "Hikaru Tanaka, it is good to see you again." "Welcome back to Earth," Reyes replied. "How was the expedition to the Centauri system?" "Successful beyond expectations. The terraforming principles we developed for Earth's recovery will work on the damaged worlds there as well." Vexera Wei's sensory crown rippled in what they had learned was an expression of satisfaction. The third planet shows particular promise for joint colonization. The observation deck door slid open as Amara entered, now serving as Earth's diplomatic liaison to the Y Collective. "The Council is ready for your presentation," she informed them. "They're particularly interested in the findings on the Devourer Swarm's movements." As they walked to the Council chamber, Rise reflected on the extraordinary journey of the past 5 years. The quantum virus had spread through the entire Vraxian collective, not destroying but transforming their consciousness. When the flagship imploded, creating a localized singularity, most believed Commander Wei had been lost forever. The revelation 3 months later had stunned everyone. His consciousness had survived within the hive mind network, becoming a template for the transformation spreading through the Vraxian collective. His sacrifice had not been in vain, but had instead created a bridge between two fundamentally different forms of intelligence. The Y Collective, as they now called themselves, had withdrawn their forces from Earth, returning to help heal the damage they had caused. Their technology, freely shared, accelerated humanity's recovery. In turn, humans helped the former Vraxians navigate their new individuated existence, teaching them concepts that had been alien to their collective mind. Art, music, humor, personal choice. In the council chamber, representatives from Earth's unified government sat alongside delegates from the Y Collective and the Martian and Europa colonies. The massive quantum resonator at the chamber's center activated, projecting a familiar presence. Though not physically present, aspects of Wei's consciousness could still communicate through the quantum network he had helped create. The Devourer Swarm continues its approach from the galactic rim, the projection explained, displaying tactical data compiled from Y Collective deep space sensors. But our combined technology has accelerated defense preparations by approximately 67 years. The projections show a 93% probability of successful defense when they arrive. Rice felt a profound sense of hope as she watched human and former Vraxian scientists collaborating on defense strategies. The existential threat that had driven the Vraxians to desperate conquest would be faced together by both species, stronger in their differences than either would have been alone. Outside the station, a monument orbited in perfect resonance, a quantum sculpture that broadcast Wei's final message throughout near space. "In our differences lie our greatest strengths." Ships bearing joint crews of human and former Vraxian explorers departed regularly for distant stars, carrying this lesson to the cosmos. Humanity had not merely survived. They had transformed their greatest enemy into their strongest ally, proving that true victory came not through domination, but through connection and understanding. As Reyes watched Earth turning below, she knew that whatever challenges the universe might bring next, they would face them not alone, but together, changed forever by the encounter that had nearly destroyed them both.